to another moment of significance, the podcast where we uncover the stories, the struggles, the strategies of extraordinary leaders who understand that success is not just about what you achieve in life. It's also about the significance that you create as a leader and a legacy you leave behind. I'm your host, Steyn Rousseau, and today I'm joined by associated partner to Steyn Rousseau and Associates, Leslie van Straten. Leslie is a master coach. She's an educational expert. And the question I have this morning for our audience is, are our teachers being led to thrive, or are they just being told to cope? So today we want to unpack real leadership and what it looks like in our schooling system, in our educational system. And we want to unpack the truth about teacher overwhelm. And we want to talk about a pilot that we'll be launching early in January that will give teachers back their time, their energy, their confidence to a great extent. Now, Leslie is an associated partner at Steyn Rousseau & Associates. She's a master coach, and she helps schools reduce overwhelm and build confidence, support teachers with relevant CPD, mentoring frameworks, and practical well-being tools, which is really, really exciting. And I want to just, Leslie, welcome. Thank you for joining me. And I want to just jump straight in and ask, when you listen to teachers, and I know you come from the teaching industry and had a lifetime in it, but I also know that you've done some extensive market research into the education system and what teachers experience. So I'm wondering, when you listen to teachers across the province, perhaps, and even wider than that, what are they actually saying about, how does CPD work for them, or their workload, the support? What does it look like at this moment in time?
Oh, thank you. Good morning, Steyn. It's an honor and a privilege to be here on your significance platform. It really is. And as you said, I conducted a lot of interviews. I interviewed teachers extensively, not only in this province, but across the country. And you mentioned the word overwhelmed just now. That was the word that every single teacher that I interviewed came up with. Every one of them expressed that they feel totally overwhelmed. So actually, my interviews ended up as really good chats. Each one of them needed to chat. And that took me to the realization that everybody just needs to be heard. And the other thing that was very obvious and clear was a lack of emotional support. And while most teachers expressed that they know it's not the principal's fault, the principals are doing their best, but they too are under such immense pressure to perform and to keep up with all the demands that are put on them, that they just don't have the time to plow into the teachers and give them what they need. So it really is that need to be heard that teachers are experiencing. And it's frightening what a large percentage of the teachers that are interviewed are now on antidepressants. I couldn't believe it. I found it so sad. In fact, Steyn, I have an article here that was sent to me by a friend and colleague, and it says, it was actually on News 24, and it says, the South African Council for Education, SACE, has commissioned an investigation to assess the mental health of teachers amidst complaints of heavy teaching workloads, emotional fatigue, and burnout. It goes on to say that SACE, which is investigating in conjunction with UNESCO's International Institute for Capacity Building in Africa, stated that studies have shown that high stress levels are a primary cause of teacher burnout. And then you mentioned the CPD points. Majority of the teachers that I interviewed said that the CPD points are basically a tick box situation, and most often of very little relevance.
Yeah, so it's not adding value actually, and I think the unique thing we have with with teachers and the schooling system and the education system as a whole, is most probably the fact that, we often ask at schools, as teachers, what has this got to do with leadership? But here's the reality, from a school perspective, you have a principal that's the leader of his team and of teachers, but also we shouldn't forget that teachers in their own right are leaders to the kids that they teach. So we literally, looked at almost a double-sided burnout, because you got principals that's really taking strain in the very same way that the teachers are taking strain. And, where does the teacher look to alleviate that strain, to make the pain and the overwhelm less to the principal, but the principal is in the same state. So from a leadership perspective, the question is that, where do you see the real levers are, the real move points, and what should leaders start, I call it, what should we stop doing and start doing, and to sustain and help teachers feel valued and effective? Because it does look like from the research that, as you say, CPD is a tick box thing, not adding real value. There's a tremendous amount of overwhelm, which is what we've seen in the research, So what would you reckon, if we could start something, what would make a difference?
Well, Stan, I go back to what I said earlier. Every person has an innate need to be seen and heard. And when valued, and then we can fulfill our purpose. Teachers have a calling. They need to fulfill that role. And if their tanks are full, they would be able to, but that's not the case. Stan, I remember about 10 years ago when I was still teaching, I remember that the chairperson on the school governing body that I taught at was also a psychologist. And she very generously offered a session with each teacher. And I remember going in there thinking, I'm okay. I don't really need this, but it'll be interesting. And within one sentence, I was weeping. And it was then that I realized that I was carrying so much and not being able to release and offload to anybody. So I wasn't being heard myself. I was hearing so many and not being heard. So yes, I think another aspect is recognition of effort. I think a lot of teachers just want to be told, well done. We see that you're trying. We see your efforts. And then, of course, CPD points should be more relevant, course relevant, and the teacher's time that they spend fulfilling the CPD requirements is precious. So that I see that time, that input should rather be of immense value to the teacher as a teacher as well as a person, so that they are feeling fulfilled and alive and capable. So for me, though, the greatest relevance, and this is my opinion, is in mentorship, actually being mentored. And that's my true passion.
Yeah, that's an absolute valid point, and, while I'm listening to you, one of the things that really pop up for me or stand out is that if CPD, which is, continuous professional development, is supposed to be enhancing the teacher's capabilities, the teacher's skill, keep them relevant, in essence, on top of their game. Unless we continuously learn and move forward, we'll move backwards. And if it's not doing that, it's not relevant. It's really not adding value. All it does is actually taking time. It takes time up, and the CPD requirements I've read up is quite strenuous. And so I think it's a crucial thing that that CPD is relevant and that it actually strengthened the hand of the educator. And that really brings me to, I often heard you say that, overwhelm systems create overwhelmed people. So what does a clear and a supportive school system look like on a normal Tuesday or a normal Wednesday? What does it even look like?
Good question, Stain. So the administrative side is immense. And so it would be amazing if that could be lessened. There could be fewer administrative tasks for teachers and no duplication. There's a lot of duplication. Then teachers also need to be supported in their interaction with parents. That came across really, really clearly in my interviews. They really do feel that the need to be supported in that and to be empowered in how to relate to the parents. And I would say regular check-ins, because that brings about a spillover effect. So if the teacher is regularly being checked in on, then she's going to, or he's going to do the same with their learners. And so it will just become an automatic snowball effect. And then again, as I mentioned, intentional mentoring time, absolutely prioritized, not just as and when it happens, but priority.
On a regular basis, I suppose.
Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. Some of these conversations, and I've also had some conversations with some educators, and if I have to pick one of the things that stood out to me, and whether this is true or not, and I'm going to ask you, is what is the most painful thing for young teachers, and one of the things that really were brought to my attention is the amount of times you have teachers literally crying in their car before school, because of the pressure, the overwhelm, and the things that they're going through. And, that's how you start your day. That's the tone you set. And, what is leadership's response that turns that pain into a purpose? What are we doing to take that pain and change it and turn it into a purpose? And then second, is it even real? Or is this just like, the odd case that you have teacher overwhelmed? To me, it sounds like it's a pretty real thing.
Well, ouch, that's an ouch question for me, because that was what absolutely blew my mind in these interviews, was the number of teachers who are tearful on the way to school in the morning and sitting in their cars crying before getting out and walking in. And that just paints a picture of immense sadness to me. How on earth can that poor person be delivering as is expected? How can they? So a favorable leadership response, and again, I reiterate that most principals would do these things, but a favorable response from leadership, I think, would be to listen, to empathize, again, to acknowledge the effort that that person is putting in, and most importantly, ask how they can help. And then, it has to be a safe environment if there's help supplied. A teacher needs to be equipped with tools, coping skills to cope with the stress, and how to have resilience in these situations, how to respond, because the sadness is a fact, the stress is a fact, the anxiety is a fact, it's there. How to deal with it, how to cope, how to feel supported. You cannot walk into that classroom not knowing how to cope. And I feel that, again, that the empowered teacher in turn empowers their learners.
I think it's an incredible valid point, and one of the things I've picked up is that, I was told by a number of teachers, what sometimes happen is that we pick the kid up at home as a parent, we go and drop him off at school. There's no discipline, both for the child and even in his home, there's no discipline. And then exam time, the marks are really low. And the parent rocks up and go, what are you doing to make sure my child passes? And it seems like we tend to forget, that passing your school year takes incredible hard work from a teacher because they have to teach, but it also takes incredible hard work from the learner. And if there's a breakdown on either one of those sides, making it happen, I think must be really difficult. And that's one of the things that I picked up in some conversations I had, that it seems like new teachers often, arrive unprepared. And they arrive unprepared, not only unprepared for the lessons that they're supposed to be giving that day, but sometimes unprepared for, the storms that's going to come their way by the way of kids not doing what they're supposed to be doing, parents rocking up at the school, putting extra pressure on them at the end of the day. So, when we look at it, and it seems like some teachers are unprepared, it's not only unprepared for the work that they have to deliver. So the question that I have in my mind is, what does leadership set out to do? What does a win look like? What needs to change? If we look at where we going into exams at this moment in time right throughout the country, and if we had to look at leadership and what needs to change, and what does a good first term look like for 2026?
Well, I absolutely love that question, Steyn. But for me, just to talk about that new inexperienced teacher, that's where my heart lies, with new teachers, young teachers, not necessarily new teachers, younger teachers, inexperienced teachers, and struggling teachers. If they can be linked into a mentoring program, thereby being equipped with tools, all sorts of tools, just to feel that they have the skills, to know they have the skills. And in the mentoring ladder, they would be accountable to a mentor who they trust and like, because that's often a problem, is in some of the mentoring programs that people try to put together, or ladders that they try to put together, there's not always a good relationship, and that's so vital. So I go back to saying they need constant support and regular check-ins and chat points.
Absolutely. Now, one of the things I know that from Stone & Stone Associates, what we've done is to put a program together to actually do something about these issues, because that's the choices we have in life. We can pick up that there are some challenges, and the first choice we have is do absolutely nothing, and keep on getting what we're getting. If you don't change anything, you don't do anything, you're going to keep on getting what you're getting. Or you can say, what, this is really important, because we're in actual fact talking about the next generation of business owners, the next generation of leaders, the next generation that needs to make our economy bloom and work, because that is what our kids are. They are the next generation of people that needs to take over in leadership positions and make things happen. And we decided to take the stance of, something can be done and something should be done. And I want to ask, we spoke about, when we started out, about a pilot that will be launching, a program that you've kindly put together. And I want you to just give us a short overview. What is the pilot and what is it not? What is it supposed to be doing? Why are we even doing a pilot with teachers? And how will we be doing this pilot? What is needed for this to be successful?
Fantastic. Well, Steyn, as you know, I've completed all those interviews and we are now ready with the program. We know what the teachers need. We know what they need. And so the pilot is basically a proof of concept that we need to put together, and that's the next step. And so we're calling it the beta launch. the beta launch aspect the pilot component has three aspects to it. There's mindset coaching, which is vital, practical mentoring tools, and then CPD alignment. So that's a very basic overview, but the actual pilot component, those on the beta launch, there will be no cost, and it will be held, if I can explain to you what it's going to look like. It's going to be online on Zoom. There will be a kickoff session, and in that session, we're going to equip the teachers with NLP tools. For the listeners that don't know what NLP is, it is neuro-linguistic programming, and it's basically about how we think, and that the power is in our thoughts. So there's that kickoff session with NLP. Then there will be two further sessions with basically embracing and equipping teachers with confidence, and again, interaction with parents and other adults and colleagues, which is vital. Then also launching the mentorship ladder, which is for ongoing support for all those on the program. And then the final session will be a feedback and evaluation for the SACE, South African Council of Education, submission. And it will launch in January. Our beta launch will take place in January, and it will be completed over February, in evening sessions, and then the feedback will happen in March.
Oh, fantastic. I just like the format of it, and basically what I'm hearing, and that's what I love about this, is this is not just like thumb sucking and thinking. This is research based. Having spoken to people that actually educate as teachers, that are standing in front of the class, experiencing these days every day, and then secondly going and say, you know what, we have figured out over the years what works in business. How do we keep business people that live under stress on a good mental state? How do we equip them to communicate better? And that's why I love neuro-linguistic programming so much, because it's literally neuro-linguistic programming. It's how we communicate better, how we listen better, how we understand better, and how we get better results. And doing a pilot like this, what I'm hearing is literally, testing the results of the concept. So instead of like many other programs out there coming to a marketplace that, guys, we have figured this out. What we in essence of saying is that we've done the research and we are testing it out with real teachers and then measuring the results of that, which makes it really irrefutable then. Then that's really, I'm really excited about that. So, what outcomes are you aiming for? What are we looking to achieve, and how will we measure them?
That's fascinating, Stan. Well, very much aiming at improved confidence and expecting an improvement in well-being as well in 70 to 80% of teachers, definitely. Another expected result will be fewer stress-related absentees and stronger relationships with parents and colleagues. A general sense of upliftment, which will bring fulfillment to the teachers again, who once again, I reiterate, teaching is a calling. And so that sense of fulfillment is so vital. And we will get our results from quick surveys that we put together, simple attendance and absenteeism data. Staying, this is going to be a reliable, competent program that schools will actually rely on and actually won't be able to do without. I'm confident of that. I want teachers to know the power of their thoughts. I want them to know how to harness that power and to know that those thoughts are real. And I want new teachers to be able to have access to a high value mentoring system.
No, that's absolutely fantastic, and I cannot support that more. You know what we often in business do, and one of the things we specialize in as Steyn Rousseau & Associates is that we go into companies and we go and do a diagnostic analysis, and we literally measure performance friction, or the invisible thing that slows performance down, because most companies will track the metrics that they'll track is built on, you know, how many sales do we do? What does it take to do those sales? What does the money side look at it? But what we never track is the invisible friction that exists when communication breaks down, when there's a delay in execution speed. And then we often forget that, you know, being a school, we look at it as a school, but in essence, it's a business and it's got people inside of it, and there's a people dynamic to it at the end of the day. So one of the things that really excite me is our ability to measure certain things. So instead of guessing where the breakdown come, where the slowdown come, where the friction come, we can actually, with quite great accuracy, point out, and we measure, I think, 8 different areas of possible friction points in, you know, in a system, to see where does it come down. Now, you cannot manage what you can't see. And this is why this is such an incredible thing. And when we start doing surveys and interviews and having conversations and we start measuring, we can actually pinpoint where the friction lie. And once we know what it is, what it looks like, what is it doing to that school or education system, once we know that, it becomes possible to actually do something about it. And that's what excites me most about this, is that it's not a blind run. It's a very calculated, specific run, and taking some stuff that we know is working and putting them to the test in the education environment. So what does overwhelm look like? What do we do about it? And what does it look like for a teacher if they do not have to be overwhelmed on a daily basis? If they can actually focus on the thing that they are passionate about, and that is helping kids grow, helping them learn, helping them be educated. And really the importance of good education to the entire economic system in South Africa, in my own viewpoint, is really paramount. If we look at countries across the world where you have a high educational level and a high standard, you normally have a very strong economy. Where we have a low educational standard and you know, low education, you generally have a very low economic standard. So education is that vital thing that will carry the next generation to a better place. And I want to almost call it, you know, pardon me for that. I just want to call it, what does the leadership playbook look like? So if we have to isolate this morning in this conversation, 3 moves, you know, 3 things principals can make, maybe even this term still, that'll make a difference. What would those 3 things be? You know, often I think we look at a problem and we see this huge thing, and we don't get past that huge thing because we don't break it down and go, so what is that small step, that one thing I can do right now to make it better? And once I've accomplished that, what is the next thing that I can do right now? So if we can perhaps, and I would love to hear your insights on that, you know, let's pick 3 things that we think and know that a principal can make, small steps they can take to move forward and to get things done better.
Excellent question. I guess, well, as I've said before, principals are doing their best. They really are. And I know they are invested already. So I guess if I were to choose 3 things, I would say they would possibly assess how CPD points are acquired, and rather replace those aspects that are of little or no value, that are just repetitive, to something that is going to be an investment in each staff member. So that would be the one thing, review the CPD acquisition. The second, replace an aspect of admin. The administration in schools is hectic. The load is hectic. So to identify one low value admin aspect with possibly replace that time with pre-planning or personal investment time for each teacher. Here's some time for you in respect of the fact that you need some time. And we trust that you do with it what you need to. And then possibly a third thing, to create a simple mentoring with pair up in the schools, maybe one-on-one, but that would have to be quite well planned because of the personal aspect and the safety aspect. But I can't really think of any more. I think those are three I can think.
I agree with you, and I think it's like, in any business environment, one of the crucial things is to have a safe space. So if I don't have a safe space and I cannot communicate, what challenges I have, and I feel that I'm not heard or seen, I don't matter. Because this is one of the big things I've picked up over the many years that we've been involved in helping businesses grow and do better, is that people go through their lives and they say to the world, look at me, look at what I've achieved, acknowledge me, see me. I want to know that I'm seen, that I'm heard, and that I matter. And often when we experience overwhelm, it's as a result of not being heard or seen, or have a feeling that I don't matter. And I think it's such a crucial thing. And I often say to business people, how engaging are you with your people? Are we just getting in the morning and get everyone together and said, hi, everyone, glad you're here? Or are we actually having that small 1-minute conversation with each individual saying, how are you? And really be intentional about how they are. And not just a common courtesy, because I do feel sometimes that we greet people on a daily basis and we go, hi, how are you? And they go, I'm well, how are you? But there's no intention in that. It's just a common courtesy. I'm doing it because I have good manners. I'm not doing it because I really care how that person is. Now, that I know for a fact is a major breakdown point. And a small step we can do to change that is to become really intentional when we walk into someone, and especially, from a principal perspective, are we doing the general thing? And one of my early mentors, a guy by the name of Zig Ziglar, always used to speak about walking generalities and meaningful specifics. So are we being walking generalities? Are we just going with the flow? Are we just moving, forward at whatever pace things move forward? If it goes slow, we go slow too. Or are we intentional? Are we really engaging our staff members? Are we really like looking them in the eyes and say, how are you? And really wanting to know how they are. How's things in your classroom? What challenges do you have? What can we assist you with to make that better? Because that's what teamwork looks like in my mind. That's what good leadership looks like in my mind, is when we start caring about people. Here's something that I have learned from Tom Ziglar. He's the son to Zig Ziglar, a personal friend and mentor, also one of our coaches, one of my personal coaches. And Tom likes to say that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care for them. And it's such a crucial thing, which I feel sometimes we miss out on, is we don't show people we care enough so that they realize that when they care, they'll start paying attention to how much we know. And then it becomes a journey that is supported. I'm no longer an island. I'm no longer standing alone. I'm no longer fighting the battles alone. So we're almost coming to the end of the session, and I've got some exciting news to share. But I want to first do just quick fire. I call it lightning round. And let's just give me your own viewpoint on purpose and legacy from a teaching perspective. What does purpose and legacy look like? Now, I often say to people that The be, do, and have principle means that you got to be the right kind of person that do the right kind of things to have all that life has to offer. And once you have that, only then can you give. And when you start helping someone else be, do, and have more than they thought possible is where we create significance. And if we become significant enough is where we create legacy. And legacy is what we leave in people. It's not like inheritance, what we leave to people, it's what we leave in people. What is my legacy as a principal, as a teacher? What do I want to be remembered for at the end of the race? And how big a role does purpose play in creating legacy? And I really do feel strongly that purpose and legacy is most probably one of those cornerstone foundational things that needs to be driven to be successful. But I'd like to hear, how you see that in the teaching environment, in the educational environment. Is it even relevant? Is it even in existence? Does it matter?
Oh, so it matters so greatly, Steyn. If you were to ask me what my dream is, what my wish is, it's for every single teacher, bearing in mind again that I've said teaching is a calling. It really is. I don't know how you teach if it's not your calling, but I want every teacher to know that they are unique. And every teacher has a different thumbprint. If you look at it like that, only you can make the impression you can make. Nobody else can make that impression. And so I would love for every teacher to feel valued, to be equipped with all sorts of tools. But as far as the parents are concerned and interaction with them, I would love every teacher to know the art of listening and the art of asking empowering questions and how to be confident, because parents want their child to be in the class of a confident teacher. And so if parents know that you're capable and confident, they trust you. There are parents that need boundaries in place, and that's another aspect that teachers need to be equipped with. It's a hard thing, it's tricky. And so if you as a teacher know how to respond, you're powerful. And we need powerful teachers. That's what teachers are. And I would say that we need to bring back the element of fun. And that's a technique, turning things around. Because sadness is part and parcel of life. Stress is part and parcel of it. But if we learn to look it in the face and turn it around, using resourceful, uplifting techniques, as teachers, we can then impart to the learners that the very essence of finding joy amidst what the reality is. And I have a very firm belief that children, learners, learn what they live. So if they are engulfed in that type of environment where their teachers are able to rise above, then so will they.
I tend to agree with that, and I have a firm belief that children would learn more from what they see you do than what they ever will learn from what you tell them. And often the example that's set is what they pick up and learn from. And we can almost measure any breakdown point and go and have a look and see and find that it's a breakdown point in the example that was set, either at home or via the teacher. And I agree, teaching is a calling, and that's why we're so passionate about making a difference and adding value. And stepping up really, really, so to speak. So I'm really excited, and I want to directly speak to all the teachers out there. And we know you guys are working exceptionally hard, and you're putting in a great effort, and most days is really challenging. And we want to really take hands, and we want to encourage you, invite you. I think we're going to do Wednesday, 26 November at 6 o'clock in the evening. We're going to do a short webinar, and we'll put it out on social. I'm going to let Leslie share a number now to reach out to her. But we want to really invite some of you guys to join us on a webinar, and we're going to literally share with you what it looks like. What is this whole education upliftment system, teacher upliftment system? What does it look like? What is this pilot going to do? What areas will it address? So we want to really have a good information session and said, guys, here's what it looks like. Someone recently used an example of me. So, Stein, I'm on the stage, I'm in front of the curtain. I need to see behind the curtain. I can see the Kool-Aid in front of me, but I haven't sipped it yet. And I just love that example. You can see the Kool-Aid in front of you, but you haven't sipped it yet. You see the curtain, you're on the stage, but you haven't peeked behind the curtain yet. And that's what the webinar is supposed to give you. It's to let you peek and put your head through the curtain and peek in and see what we have put together to really make a difference, and how we will be helping teachers to cope with and overcome overwhelm. How will we help them to communicate better, to manage not only the kids better, but also the parents better, but also the teacher, principal, and teacher interrelationships, because ultimately, being in that kind of environment is a team too. It's a business too, at the end of the day. So I want to really encourage you that if you want to, if this rings true for you, if it speaks to you, if you really want to know more and you want to peek behind the curtain, so take an hour out of your busy life, and it's only 1 hour. It's Wednesday evening, 26 November. It's going to run from 6 o'clock in the evening till 7 o'clock. We try to pick a time that will interfere least with people's programs and, supper times and all of those kind of things. And we're going to jump on a quick call and really give a great insight as to what is about to happen. The pilot's going to kick off in January 2026. We're going to have seats literally for only 20 people to partake in this pilot. And we want to really drive it hard and make sure that before we approach schools to implement, that it's really thoroughly tested and that results are proven and shown. So it's not just another program. And I want to really thank you for watching this morning. This was another crazy great moment of significance. This is the podcast where we uncover the stories, the struggles of real people, of real things, of the real world, the strategies of extraordinary leaders who understand that success is more than just achieving results. I'm Stein Rousseau, your host, and thank you for joining us on another episode of A Moment of Significance. Have an absolute spectacular week. I'll see you next week, the same time. Bye for now.
Bye. Thank you, Stein.
Great stuff. And we're down.